Hello, this is Professor Werwath. I'm here to give a presentation on how Tesla is changing the world, but I think the way to think about it is that Tesla is really changing the world of business. It's changing the rules of business. It's changing the paradigm. And by that, I mean, I don't believe that the world of business will ever be the same as a result of Tesla's actions, Tesla's success, the things they've been doing both in the energy space as well as the vehicle space, and what some of the implications are for the future. So hang on, I think it's going to be something of a wild ride. With that, let's move to the next slide here. Tesla is more than a car company. Yes, it has about 3% global market share at the moment. It's got about 18% market share of EVs, which is huge, of course. But we also know that Tesla sells more EV vehicles than any other car company outside of China. Ironically, one of the biggest selling vehicles in China is a joint venture between General Motors and SAIC. But if you set that aside, and that's a very small vehicle, by the way, these Tesla vehicles are all full-size vehicles, occupying what we would call the C and S segments of production. Tesla vehicles sell for high margin, about 30% or more, compared to industry standard of about 8 to 9%, excluding companies like Maserati. Tesla outsells luxury ICE cars, meaning internal combustion engine, in the same category in Germany. So Tesla sold more cars in Germany than Mercedes, Audi, and BMW for that segment, right, combined. And this is as of September 2021. Here's the kicker. The Tesla German factory is not yet open. So once the Giga Berlin is open, you can only imagine what's going to happen to those sales. Tesla builds its Model 3 in less than 10 hours. Yet VW, which makes a similar vehicle called the ID.4, takes more than 30 hours to build something very similar. Oh, by the way, the ID.4 is a much bigger, heavier car, and yet the dimensions are roughly the same as a Model 3. No other car company operates its own fast charging network. In fact, no other company has truly attempted it. Volkswagen paid a fine, and as a result, Electrify America has been building out a network, but that's not necessarily Volkswagen's initiative, nor is that a global initiative, and nor is it anywhere near as robust as the supercharging network we see from Tesla. Also, no other car company open sources its own IP portfolio. So in essence, making its patents available to the world, it's basically telling the world, we're not competing with you on this protected turf of intellectual property. We're open sourcing it because we're moving faster than our own IP, right? The stuff that's out there obviously is not a differentiator for them anymore. Their own practices are. They're moving faster than their own IP, which, frankly, most companies don't do that. They rest on their IP. They have this protective moat around them. Tesla's foregoing that, knowing fundamentally that they're, 5 to maybe 10 years ahead of virtually all their competition. Speaking of competition, here's roughly the competition in this segment. I think you can see that they're all roughly about the same price, somewhere between 30 and 35 or 37,000. Ironically, the Bolt on this chart costs more than the Tesla. The Bolt and the Tesla have similar range. They have nowhere near the same top speed. Tesla, is 130 miles per hour versus the Bolt. And of course, acceleration is much faster on the Tesla. Again, the differentiator is the fact that Tesla has its own infrastructure for charging that's been under construction now for close to a decade. Chevy has no such infrastructure, no intent to have one, no initiation, nothing. So Chevy basically says, good luck charging the car. Tesla says, please charge with us. Everyone else is in a very interesting range of about less than 150-mile range, which is far short of what anyone would consider to be acceptable range. So I almost consider the rest of the competition, second generation, while Bolt and Model 3 are third generation vehicles. So what is the operating model for Tesla, right? Ultimately, and this is key for MEM students, right? Speed and efficiency are fundamental. They're paramount, right? Continuous driving of cost and time out of the production cycle. Innovation. If you have to have one word for Tesla, it's all about innovation. They rapidly innovate at all levels and in all dimensions, right? Radical innovation. They have no problem with radical innovation. Many companies do. Tesla does not. In fact, it encourages it. and to some extent, it expects it from all of its people, all of its operating divisions. Incremental innovation is somehow still balanced with the radical, which most companies have a hard time with, right? Regular software updates are available from Tesla. I don't know of any other car company that continuously does regular incremental software updates over the air, right? Very few do this on a regular, consistent basis. Tesla does. It adds value, it adds features, and it delivers bug fixes all at the same time, all transparently, all in the background. So as a driver, you can pretty much expect your car to be as up to date as your computer. In many ways, the Tesla is a computer on wheels, right? Business model innovation, right? Recognizing that EVs are more reliable and they will destroy the dealership model. Why is that? Well, fundamentally, the dealership model makes money on repairs. The service department makes more margin, and in many cases, more revenue than the sales department. So guess what? I mean, if these cars don't require service, if they don't require repairs, then there is no service department, and the dealership model completely breaks down. So fundamentally, Tesla understood this and stayed away from the dealership model from the very beginning. It focused totally on direct-to-consumer sales over the internet. It's total departure. It's a radical innovation for this industry. I know it's not new to the world, but it is new to this industry, and it's been very successful for them, even though they've had lots of litigation and legal issues that resulted from it to this day, right? Tesla's not afraid to break the rules and the norms of the industry. In essence, like I said, Tesla builds a computing platform on wheels. This gives Tesla the needed speed and agility. Engineers know this. If you have a choice between fixing software, fixing hardware, software is always faster. It's faster to market, faster to develop, faster to test, and it gives you the ability to move on a dime. This is their secret to how they overcome the chip shortage, right? They fix the software, accommodating new chips, different chips, and basically pivoting from one chipset to the other on a dime because they have the software capacity. They built software capacity, right? Tesla has no dealer network, sells all products online. Tesla can repair your car on the road. What other dealership does that, right? No need for a dealer or shop visit. They can literally come to you. Tesla competes very well with 4 models, right? Where competitors may have literally 30 or 40 or more models. So 4 versus 40, there's a certain efficiency. If you want to think of SKUs, this is SKU reduction, okay? They're down to the bare minimum number of SKUs, basically giving them the performance, if you will, the learning curve efficiencies that come from building the same thing over and over again and getting much, much better at it every day. Again, major changes are rolled out and minor changes as well on a regular continuous basis instead of waiting for this mid-cycle refresh that the auto industry has relied on for years. Tesla doesn't really believe in that. They continuously make changes, improvements as they go. They cut them over in real time. Tesla builds to order, not to stock, right? Most companies, most car companies are building vehicles to dealer inventory. Typical dealer inventory can be 90, 120, 150 days, right? Not now, of course. Now we're down to 5 or 10 days of inventory because of the chip shortage. But in normal times, right, Tesla has a huge advantage because there's very little work in progress. There's very little inventory costs or carrying costs. And as a result, the efficiencies are to a large extent shared between Tesla and the customer. Tesla centralizes its repairs and parts. So in essence, it doesn't have a huge part business per se. It basically narrows that down. It has very few outlets for distribution. And frankly, there's not a lot of sales as a result because frankly, the car is what it is when it comes out of the factory. There's very little need to improve it. Tesla monetizes its software using a subscription model. Tesla collects data on the car and its movements and everything surrounding the car. All these cameras are collecting data on what's happening around the car from a safety perspective, from a traffic perspective, from any perspective you want. That data is collected and it's thrown into the cloud. So it's available to you. It's also thrown onto a USB. So you can bring it with you and use it in a court case. You can use it to see who's been damaging your car in the parking lot, right? Tesla collects data on the car and its movements and everything surrounding the car, right? It's collecting terabytes of data, including video and surroundings. So this can be monetized. We'll talk about that later, right? And again, Tesla can refactor software to accommodate chip shortages, as well as to accommodate all sorts of changes in the environment. All right, what are the revenue models? Obviously, automotive sales and leasing, right? They do direct leasing and leasing with resale value guarantee. So in essence, the risk of depreciation is borne by Tesla, but to a large extent, Tesla can maintain resale values as a result because they're controlling that inventory. Supercharger network generates revenue for them. They charge something, I believe, like 35 cents a kilowatt hour, which adds up very quickly. Software subscriptions, we mentioned before. Regulatory credits, right? In essence, renewable energy credits for all the electric vehicles they're selling. In essence, they sell these credits to their competitors who can't possibly meet the goals for renewable energy. They can do it by buying the credits from Tesla. Lastly, technology licensing and joint ventures. People don't realize this, but they had a joint venture, for example, early on with Toyota. Toyota purchased batteries. They developed an electric RAV4. And then for some reason, out of the blue, Toyota canceled the agreement and sold their stock interest in Tesla, which had they held on to it, it would have been worth more. Toyota's stock holdings in Tesla would have been worth more than Toyota itself. Future revenue models, right? We mentioned the data streams. Monetizing the data streams is certainly one option for them. There's a lot of ways they can do that. One way to be factoring into insurance, right? So they're talking about, and they're actually getting into the insurance business. So imagine automobile insurance being written by Tesla. They know your driving patterns. They know your driving habits, how many miles down to the inch, exactly how often you drive, when you drive, where you drive. So all of those can be factored into their risk profiles, and they can get very precise with writing insurance. And in theory, some of the savings can be passed on to the consumer. Personal robotics, right? An extension of the robotics they've put into their factories. These personal robots are rumored to be coming out in the next few years, Tesla branded. Don't be surprised when you see them in your household. Automation, this talks specifically to factory and operations automation, which they've really spent quite a bit of time and energy and money on. To a large extent, their factories are pretty close to fully automated. And the quality that comes out of it, the consistency, the efficiencies are all the envy of pretty much the rest of the world. So again, these business models are changing the climate of the world as we speak, right? HVAC equipment, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, otherwise known as residential heat pumps. This comes out of the technology they put into the latest Model Y, which, by the way, saves a lot of energy and also extends the range of the vehicle while providing reasonable comfort to the occupants of the car, as well as cooling off the batteries and the other electronics in the vehicle. Battery sales, they can be selling batteries ostensibly to their competitors and to other applications such as grid level storage. Restaurants, there's rumors that in fact they've already started with some prototype restaurants. This will look like a 1950s diner, kind of like American Graffiti, where you park and the food is brought to you. It's not a drive-through, it's a drive-in, okay? That drive-in concept can be applied to virtually any supercharging location, of which they have tens of thousands around the world. Robo-taxis, their self-driving capability will enable robo-taxis in the future, as well as robo-trucks, as well as distributed, as well as one day becoming a distributed energy provider. What do I mean by this? Okay, hold on. If you have an energy power wall combined with the solar panels that they sell, these power walls can be networked together and be commanded by the grid to release or retain energy on command, okay? What that means is when you connect these up, you have a virtual residential energy provider, you have a virtual power plant. Even though they've spent no money, this is all customer equipment, right? The customers are benefiting because they're getting paid for the energy the grid needs. And effectively, Tesla now is in the energy business, providing against Consolidated Edison, Commonwealth Edison, Exelon. They're competing on that kind of scale, right? These are, again, powered by solar panels. When you connect these to your car, right, you can now charge your car when prices are best for you. You can also use solar energy when it's best for your car. And you can even sell energy from your car to the grid when the grid needs it and when you can best monetize it. In other words, you get the highest price. So that's what we call arbitrage, right? So when you're buying low, selling high, you're making money in that transaction. So these batteries are going to become so robust that, tens of thousands of cycles will not be a problem, right? And therefore, selling energy to the grid will become an option for you as you own one of these energy systems. And that's effectively what V2G means. V2G is vehicle to grid. You're going to have an external vehicular supplemental equipment, EVSE, which is what we call a charger. It's even though it's not really a charger, but it's what sits in your garage to charge your car. That will be connected to the grid and will supply energy to and from the grid on command from the grid, right? Your car then acts as a mobile extension of your power wall, right? Powering your life at home and away from home. All right, what are the implications of robotaxis? This one innovation alone is just earth-shattering, right? Literally millions of people derive their income from driving trucks or taxis or Ubers. These jobs over the next few years, certainly less than a decade, will largely vaporize. There will be no need for parking lots or garages, right? And if you have a robo-taxi intensive world, right, you don't need to have private car ownership. That will become a thing of the past, right? We may obsolete certain types of buses and even last mile mass transit, meaning people would rather take a robo-taxi than to take the L for short distances or to take a bus, right? No need to lay out cities as we have in the past to accommodate fleets of parked cars, all these huge parking lots, all these huge parking garages, no longer needed, right? You can obsolete them, right? No need for urban gas stations. I will submit to you that people will be taking these robo-taxis, which charge mostly overnight when people are not using them. Parking meters will therefore be obsolete. And the gas stations we do have will probably be on interstates for those few people who still have gasoline vehicles for long drives. I think the gasoline vehicle, if it still exists in 10 years, will be used sparingly for the longer drives, while the shorter drives in town will be mostly robo-taxis. Most car dealerships and car repair shops will disappear. Is there a need for them? I don't see it. This new way of selling vehicles is changing the industry. Just look around. You see a lot of dealerships going out of business and dealerships with literally zero inventory, and they're selling used cars or they're trying to do service, right? Personal car ownership will likely fade away. As I mentioned, ICE vehicles will be either junk or collectible, right? Probably not much in between. Here's the question, who will own and operate these taxis? Is Tesla going to do this? Is GM going to do this? Is Uber going to do this? Will the city of Chicago, city of New York, will they own and operate these robo-taxis? We will see how that evolves. I'm very curious what that ownership model will look like, right? Tesla Energy, right? It stands at the precipice of disrupting the energy industry. As we mentioned, you can see the generation and storage revenue climbing to nearly $600 million here in third quarter of 2020. The growth rate in that same quarter was roughly 44%. So energy is a big business and will continue to be a business for Tesla. Tesla's regulatory credits in the upper left, roughly now about 5% of their revenues, total revenues, peaking somewhere around 10%. So yes, regulatory credits are an important element of the revenue portfolio for Tesla, right? And you can see the differentiated market share here between US, which is close to 1.5%, Europe, which is closer to 1%, and you can see China right behind Europe. What's happened, of course, in the last year since this chart was updated is Europe has exploded. They're buying all sorts of Teslas, and to some extent, so has China, right? Tesla profits, you can see growing dramatically. The net profits are somewhere around $2.5 billion as of second quarter of 2021. You can see something like $3 billion worth of operating profits with the regulatory credits included. So how does Tesla do it, right? So this is what I think is going to change. Very engineering intensive company. They understand engineering, they understand engineering management. Little need in their mind for traditional business management. They hire and retain only the best people. They reward innovation, they punish stagnation. Fewer meetings, less overhead, right? They move quickly. They make decisions based on sketches on a napkin or numbers on a piece of paper, right? Zero internal PowerPoint slides. They only do PowerPoint for external consumption, right? Virtually no marketing as we know it, or no advertising. Yet they're able to capture the news cycle in the Twitter feeds on a regular basis. Tesla has become a household name despite the lack of marketing spend. This is astounding, right? Many fewer MBAs, more focused on engineering and optimizing how technology operates, right? Willingness to reinvent the business, operationally putting a gigapress in the middle of his factory. Now he's got multiples in every factory across the world. So this is key to how he operates, uses proprietary solutions to achieve dominance, and then opens up his technology to enable future growth, right? So allowing others to come in and use his charging network generates more revenue that he can then expand the network and fund it internally, okay? Differentiates his product based on range and speed, thus setting the tone for future market differentiations. He's changing the rules of how cars are purchased, right? Imagine buying a car based on the size of your gasoline tank, right? While he effectively is selling a car and differentiating the price based on the size of the battery, which is really energy storage, right? Deep understanding, and I mean truly deep understanding of the technology that underlies his business, in this case, battery technology, right? And the techno-economics that drive the business. What do I mean? He understands where lithium-ion prices are going to be, where they have been, and how he's going to compete in the future. And he's always a step ahead, negotiating pricing, picking the right technology. You can see at least, 8 different chemistries on the right-hand chart. You can see where their densities are. You can see the progress of that, both the chemistry and the technology and the density over time. So cell energy density is now somewhere on the order of 300 watt hours per kilogram. And as you can see, lithium ion prices are probably at this point below $100 per kilowatt hour. So if I have a 60 kilowatt hour battery, which is huge by standards from 10 years ago, right? $6,000, really? Wow. I mean, that is a steal compared to what it used to be, $12,000, $15,000, $18,000. So the single biggest stumbling block, I think, has been removed, right? The price of the battery, the cost of the battery, and now competitive equivalence, if you will, with ICE cars is at hand. I believe that is also going to change, and it's changing the industry right now. The flip has happened. People are now seriously considering EVs in lieu of ICE in almost every market. And lastly, solar cell technology. Just as he understands batteries, he understands solar cells. I think what you're going to see here is his deep understanding of where these prices and costs are and cell efficiencies. This will drive his ability to penetrate the energy business as well in the future. So with that, I want to thank you and have you think seriously about what is Tesla's long-term viability and strategy to prevail in all these different markets. How are they going to be able to monetize and still stay focused on the business at hand? Very difficult to succeed in all these different businesses. How are they going to do it, and how's that going to change the world? With that, take care.